The Monster Mile showed us this past weekend just how it's earned such a nickname. Devouring cars in all fashions, offering up some of its concrete surface in order to do so. One of the young men who was able to escape the clutches of this concrete monster was MWR test driver Brett Moffitt, making his NASCAR Sprint Cup Series debut piloting the number 66 Toyota from J. Robinson Racing. Now, it wasn't behind the wheel of an MWR car, but the MWR family is pleased to congratulate Brett on such a big accomplishment and taking advantage of this giant opportunity. Our longtime follower Bob wrote in asking just who was at fault when Kyle Busch and Clint Bowyer made contact on lap 125, sending Kyle up into the wall and Clint Bowyer into the pits for repairs. Now, when two drivers are racing that hard in the top five, Clint was cleared by his spotter. Kyle didn't relent at all up top, causing the nose of his car to barely touch Clint's bumper. Now, when you're in the apex of that turn at a track carrying so much speed, someone's going to end up in the wall. And more often than not, it's usually the man on the high side. Now, after this incident, Clint was able to escape the retaliation from Kyle Busch with the help of both spotters and NASCAR's intervention.
Didn't come to pit road, and I think Clint Bowyer knew. Clint Bowyer has experience.
Be smart here, Kyle. They're calling A. Kyle, stop. Stop. They're calling you on that. Just stop.
Enabling him to finish the race with a top four finish. And this also capped off Clint's streak out of the last 7 races at Dover with top 10 finishes. Our top question this week comes from Daniel Matzdorf. He wanted to know if we have our own wrap and paint shop here at MWR. Indeed we do, Daniel. And our paint shop is one of the busiest departments that we have within our organization. Not only do they paint cars themselves, but anything else that would need to be covered in paint, these boys handle it. From fuel lines, fuel cells, pit boxes, truck arms, to body panels. These guys are on top of their game. This week's last question was, what's the biggest challenge when fixing a blown motor? The biggest challenge is rebounding the following week to try and regain those points that you lost from the poor finishing position. What happened this past week to the 55's engine could not be fixed at the racetrack. When it comes to actually fixing our motors, we do not do this in-house. All of our motors we get from TRD, located in Costa Mesa, California. They arrive and leave our shops in these big steel crates right here. So right after the race, when we get our car back to the shop, we pull the motor, put it back in this crate, and we send it to quality control back at TRD in Costa Mesa, and they handle it from there. Now, there are very few obvious and distinctive telltale signs about an engine going down during a race. The very first of which, the driver will report a loss in power. Then you'll see a lot of smoke coming out of the engine compartment as well as the exhaust pipe. And finally, when we get to the car to the garage, the very first thing we look for is oil coming out of the exhaust pipes. This means that the engine block is cracked and so have the cylinders, meaning that oil is leaking out into places where it doesn't belong. Now that Dover's behind us, our focus shifts to Pocono, a track where all 3 of our MWR drivers were able to test at last week. However, this is not the same Pocono that we're used to. With the removal of a restriction curb going into the tunnel turn and a paving of the pull-off area beside it, you're going to see a whole new edge to the restarts during the Pocono 400. This race day and every race day, please keep your questions coming. Simple, complex, doesn't matter. You have the questions, we have the answers. Just ask MWR.